I've come to the conclusion if they can make Paddington Bear look this good for 3 movies, then they have no excuse not to do Curious George or Babar the Elephant. I will take either. I will take both. Anyways, welcome back, and once again, thank you for trusting me with your full spoiler movie reviews. That thing I do where I watch movies and then I tell you all about them. As always, I am unpaid and unsponsored, and spoilers. Spoilers, 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 all the spoilers. If you don't want spoilers, you can go ahead and scroll. I won't be offended. One more time, spoilers. All right, here we go. This is Paddington in Peru, the 3rd installment of the Paddington series, a series I absolutely love. And I think it works because it doesn't try to beat you over the head with the messaging. You think you're just watching a nice movie, and by the end you have learned something and you feel it in your heart. And also, this one is full of fucking big names. They're all kind of full of big names, but I mean, whoo! You've got your regulars. You've got Hugh Bonneville. You've got Emily Mortimer. You got Jordan Broadbent. Hugh Grant makes a cameo from the last film. Imelda Staunton, I think, is Aunt Lucy, which means Imelda and Hugh Bonneville are making a Downton Abbey reunion. You've got Antonio Banderas and Olivia Colman. I love Olivia Colman. The only actress I love more than Olivia Colman is Emma Thompson. But that's because, one, Emma Thompson gets seniority, and also she has this very quippy wit about her. Essentially, she's the funniest person ever. And that's not something you can learn. That's something you're just born with. Anyway, so what's this about? So Mr. Paddington Brown is now an English citizen. He has an English passport. His friends gifted him the Windsor Deluxe umbrella, the best umbrella for a true British gentleman. And the family is kind of doing their thing. The girl is applying to college. The boy is still really into engineering, but he's a full-ass teenager now, so lazy, at least they say he is. Hugh Bonneville is learning to take more risks, and that's how he's going to be a really good risk manager at the insurance agency. And Emily Mortimer is doing her thing now that she has all this time because her kids are basically grown. But she's a little sad. She feels like they're not, spending enough time together. Well, as always, Paddington has been corresponding with Aunt Lucy, who is his bear caretaker from Peru that now lives in the home for retired bears. So we find out in the beginning, when Paddington was a baby, he was on a branch, and the branch broke, and he fell into the Amazon, and that's where Aunt Lucy fished him out. Well, come to find out, Paddington had an ankle bracelet on as a baby, and it had this little medallion thing with a picture of a bear on it. But she didn't really know what that meant. She knew that meant he had a family, but she didn't know where. So apparently she had been studying for years trying to figure out where Paddington came from. Well, one day Paddington gets a letter from the Reverend Mother, who takes care of the retired bears, because the retired bear home is run by nuns, that Aunt Lucy is really depressed and that she's not coming out of her room and she's having a really hard time. So Mrs. Brown thought it was a good opportunity for the whole family to go on holiday. And Paddington's like, hell yeah, let's go see Aunt Lucy. Well, they get to the home for retired bears, which, by the way, I love Hugh Bonneville in his vacation clothes because he looks like Jeremy Clarkson, and I think it's hilarious. But anyway, they get to the home for retired bears, and Aunt Lucy has gone missing. We don't know why, and we don't know how. Well, Paddington finds a map in her room, and it leads to this place deep in Peru called Rumi something or another. And they're like, oh, she's probably there. We need to go to there. So they charter a boat that's being captained by Antonio Banderas and his daughter Gina. Well, come to find out, Antonio Banderas sees the ghosts of his relatives who were conquistadors, and he is in search of gold. When he finds out it's a bear and they want to go to the Rumi place, he's like, oh, hell yes, let's do this. Because come to find out, the Rumi place is supposed to be the entrance to El Dorado. What is El Dorado? 1, it's a chippy shop in England. 2, it's a company that makes adult toys. And 3, it is the lost city of gold in South America. Did you ever see The Road to El Dorado? Well, apparently getting to the Rumi place is kind of treacherous. And the daughter knows exactly why he wants to take the trip, because he wants to find El Dorado. She's not really into the whole gold thing. She's like, that's hard. We need to turn it around. And he's like, okay, we'll go tie up the boat for the night. And when she gets off to tie the boat, he leaves her. And then he gets hit with the boom on the sail part and gets knocked into the water. So the next day, the Browns and Paddington are kind of on a boat that's not being captained in it, and it's perilous. And then the boat capsizes, and now they're lost in the jungle of Peru. Meanwhile, Mrs. Bird has been staying at the home for retired bears, and she's nosy as fuck. Number one, she's trying to call the satellite phone on the boat, and it's not working, so she's going and snooping, and there's like a hidden room in the fucking home for retired bears that Olivia Colman has, and she's like, what the fuck is this? And Olivia Colman's like, well, I've been tracking the Browns, because it's a big-ass jungle, but clearly she wants to find gold, too. And before they left, Olivia Colman gave Emily Mortimer this necklace that turned out to be a tracking device, so she knows exactly where they are. They're going in the wrong direction to the Roomy place. Mrs. Bird's like, well, we gotta call the authorities, we gotta go rescue them, and Olivia Colman's like, no, we got a better plan. She has a whole ass seaplane. So back to the Brown family, they slept under a giant ass tree in the jungle. Paddington climbed a tree and started using his roar because Aunt Lucy said, if you're ever lost, do the roar and I'll roar back and I will find you. So that's what he did. Well, then Antonio Banderas comes back out of nowhere and he's following Paddington to the Roomy place. And then they start fighting over the bracelet that has the little coin to open the road to El Dorado. Meanwhile, Mrs. Bird and Olivia Colman and the seaplane show up and they rescue the Brown, except the plane's having a little bit of trouble. Like, Mr. Brown has to manually open the landing gear, but there's a big spider in there, so he has to face his fears. And then the windscreen gets covered up, so the son has to make a little reachy grab boy to get the leaves off. And then they located Paddington and they landed the plane. So now it's a big fight between all of them, and come to find out, Olivia Colman, one, is not, in fact, a nun, and two, the cousin of Antonio Banderas. So then there's a big fight with them over some gold. And then Paddington gives Antonio Banderas a hard stare because he has forgotten his manners. And that gives Antonio Banderas a change of heart, and he takes out his own cousin. And he's like, okay, I'm not even worried about the gold, Paddington. You need to go find Aunt Lucy. So Paddington dispenses the little coin, and it opens the road to El Dorado. And they're greeted by some ghillie suits that like move around, and they think they're the forest spirits. Come to find out, it's bears in ghillie suits, and they protect El Dorado. Now you think it's going to be full of gold? It's full of bear gold. And you know what bear gold is? Oranges. It's great big fat juicy oranges. And come to find out, that's his family. And he found Aunt Lucy. And he comes to the conclusion, family is what you make it. You have your tribe, which is the El Dorado Bears. That's where you come from, but your family is who you're with, and he wants to stay with the Browns. I was like, oh, how are we going to sneak that in there? Oh, I'm sick. Because, not everybody's family is blood related. You've got your tribe, that's where you come from, but your family is who you make it. And then Aunt Lucy goes back to the home for retired bears, and Mrs. Bird stays there because she's fixing a whole lot of stuff there. Paddington goes back to England, and the El Dorado Bears come and visit, and he shows them everything. And now they all have their English names that are after different train stations. The end. Did I love it? Yes, I loved it. I love all of these movies. Take your babies. They're going to love it. Also, fun fact, in case you did not know, did you know the Ukrainian President Zelensky actually does the Ukrainian voice for Paddington? I don't know if you care or not. I just think that's really interesting. That's all. Okay, bye.